Because I've got news. But
Oh, you have news. Okay. Well, then maybe we just throw it in. Woohoo. Then
well, what?
if you have news, news is good. I like news.
Yeah, it's news that can wait, though.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's okay, that's
I'm
bad, Kyle.
curious now.
Hmm.
I was about to say if it's Chibnall and it's about the new series, probably won't get that to 2022. So,
Right.
okay. Anyway, all right. Well, you know what? We'll do news and
Cal, you do your magic if you want to move it around into some other show or something.
bingo. Exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
Uh, cool. And I hope you guys. Thank you, Clarence, again for your help editing the thing that just went out, the Angels, and
Oh yeah.
I had fun inserting clips in it, and already had feedback saying, "Oh, I loved it." Shannon messaged me saying, "Oh, I loved it." So, woohoo,
Hmm. I just started listening, so that's great.
woohoo, cool. All right, so gentlemen, here we scream. Here we go. The Discussing Network presents Discussing Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I am Kyle Jones, and I want to start welcoming back this week Clarence Brown. Clarence, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well as always. Glad to be back with you guys to talk about some Doctor Who.
Awesome. Well, as always, glad to have you back. And as always, Lee Shackelford. Glad to have you back as well. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm maintaining, man. The
Maintaining.
dude abides.
Cool. Well, glad to
Yeah.
hear you're maintaining. We have some news, I think. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. You have some news, and excuse me, my voice is losing it today. I'm
Oh
losing it
dear,
today. Um,
Kyle is losing it.
when have I ever found it? Woohoo. You have news, and I don't know what it is, so I'm curious. Your news, what is it?
Well, as we record this, it's a famous birthday of famous Kyle Jones. Yay!
Yeah. Talk about some news.
Yeah. Do, 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 do.
Uh,
And you're 749?
no, 750.
There you go.
Yeah. Just
Well,
a,
life doesn't begin anyway.
yep, yep. I'm right middle age at 750. So thank you. Thank you. I really thought you had some news.
Oh, I do. I got lots of news.
Well,
And part of it is
well, I actually have something that you guys, speaking of my birthday, that you
mhm.
guys probably may or may not believe that I have done.
Mm-mm.
I have gone on record as saying, and this is not like big earth shattering or anything like that, or that Kyle, climbed a mountain or something like that. No, I didn't do that. What I did do, however, is something that I customarily don't do, and I've mentioned this several times on here. Lee, you've even referenced that Kyle doesn't do this. But I went back today and watched the last episode of Vera that I have not watched, and I have watched the last episode of the current season of Death in Paradise that I have not watched. Again, these are continuing stories. Don't know when they'll come back on again. But I was like, you know what? There's no reasoning, Lee. I give thanks to you for this. I was like, there's no reason to hold these and just have them out there in a box somewhere and never enjoy them. When can I enjoy them? I said, I'm going to watch them on my birthday. So I did.
Oh.
That's terrific.
So
Yeah, that seems like a very perfect way to mark that. I love it.
cool, cool.
And it makes a brilliant segue to my other news. It's not my news. It's Doctor Who news. Um,
Well, tell us.
sorry, I had to go off mic there for a second. I'm back. Talk about concluding things. Kyle and I, particularly on this show, have mentioned many times that we are dissatisfied with some aspect of the classic series and the fact that we have a new Doctor Who series now, and they're not addressing this unfinished business of the original series. The first time we parted with a companion was, of all things, the Doctor's granddaughter. And in that, at the end of that episode uh, of Invasion of the Daleks, he leaves her behind on the Earth, an Earth that has been taken over by Daleks in our future. And he tells her he's going to come back. And it's a lovely scene, brilliantly played. But yet, isn't that a big question mark that's been hanging in the air? And Carol Ann Ford, the actress who played Susan, is still around, and we've been saying we need an episode that ties this off. It's probably never going to happen on the TV series proper, but Big Finish has produced an episode called After the Daleks, starring Carol Ann Ford, and it will be released in August of this year. $12.99 in the US for the digital download, and I have already pre-ordered my copy because the promise is it's going to pick up with Susan after the doctor leaves her there. And so even if he doesn't fulfill his promise to come back for her, we'll at least at last find out what happened to her. And I, for one, am super excited.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm kind of speechless because I want to know that the doctor comes back, and I'm wondering, would they do that, and if so, which version, or will
Which
they leave
doctor?
it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the question that has never really been answered about Susan, is that a nickname that she has for him, grandfather? Because he doesn't call her granddaughter, he calls her Susan, which is all right. But and they're both on the run, they say. So we have always assumed that she is from Gallifrey as he is, and that they left together. Is she a time lady?
What if she regenerates and we see her again in some other
I would love that.
incarnation?
Yeah.
See, we know. Okay, so remember, we have the gentleman. I'm reminding myself here. We have the gentleman who is in Canada who has never watched it, so I can't say too much. But I do believe she is from Gallifrey proper because of things. We will see.
Yeah.
But maybe. Spoilers. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm just making this up. But I choose to say that she is from Gallifrey. I would love for her to regenerate. I actually have a perfect actress who could regenerate into a younger Susan if they wanted to do that. And it's the same actress, since let's keep precedent going and say the actress who played Susan in the movie.
Oh, in Adventure in Space and Time.
Who is also a Big Finish actor now because of the continuing First Doctor stories with David Bradley and the cast from Adventure in Space and Time.
Right. So she's already been playing Susan. Yeah. How interesting.
So crazy idea. What if she regenerates and somehow has lost her memory and she's somebody we've already been with?
Yeah.
I think that would be crazy.
I think that has been speculated, several times. A lot of people thought perhaps the River Song was Susan, that kind of thing. So, yeah, why not?
I think there was speculation with the Impossible Girl at one point that Clara would actually maybe be some type of something that had happened to Susan. So...
So maybe this Big Finish adventure is going to address some of those possibilities. We don't know. But anyway, written by Roland Moore, comes out in August 2021 from bigfinish.com. There you go.
I'm sure we'll be talking about it.
We will be talking
about it. We'll be there. But you know what? If we're not talking about it today, one day we will talk about it, man. Anyway. So that wasn't that good, but hey, it's my birthday.
Only because it's your birthday, Cal.
Yeah, only because it's my birthday. I am not talking about the you-know-what today. Just saying.
Well, you're at the age now where you might start losing it, so, go right ahead.
Yeah, true. But, oh dear, I did remember to press the recorder button. Anyway, So, gentlemen, any other news before we move on into why we are here tonight?
You heard all of mine.
Awesome. Mr. Brown, what about you?
Not at all, but I'll throw out the call to action right here. If you want to support the show, you can, of course, do that by subscribing. Hit us up on iTunes or wherever you're listening and leave us a review. You can also send in feedback to to discussingwho@gmail.com or hosts at discussingnetwork.com. And hit us up at Discussing Who on any and all social media outlets.
All right. So before we move on, I actually have a question slash news. So we'll continue and say this is news. Clarence, earlier today, you messaged asking us about Ali Alexander. Curious, what posed that question?
So rumors are floating around that he might be the next Doctor Who. That, of course, made me go and research a little bit about him. He's a British pop icon, pop star. And that's about the limit of what I know about him. But he seems like a character that could very much pull off the Doctor if you go hit him up on YouTube and search a few videos. But he's a very popular singer. So, yeah, there you go.
Mm. I just pulled up. I mean, I'd heard the name floated around, and that was about it. I do see what you're saying, and based on some of the pictures, at least in that way he has his hair colored at the moment. If this is not his true hair color, the Doctor would finally be ginger. So he is older than Matt Smith was when he took over. He's as of right now 30 years old, and here's a little bit of trivia for you guys. He shares the same pre-Doctor Who being a songwriter or being a singer, musician, pop person with another Doctor Who alumni. Who might that person that he shares being a pop star with, who might that be?
Well, I was going to say, you can't have a doctor or a companion who's been a big pop star. That's not a good enough credential, but
No.
it did work for Billy Piper.
Yes, indeed. Ding, bingo. Cool. All right. So it's interesting. Excellent segue because Billy Piper's presence or pending presence as Rose Tyler would dramatically affect what we're about to talk about. And the question of the day is for everyone who has not seen the Scream of the Shalka, put us on pause, go out, watch this episode of webcast, come back because from this moment forward, spoilers. Alrighty, the spoiler warning has gone out and we are back to review the Scream of the Shalka. This was a series of webcasts released weekly in installments between the 13th of November and the 18th of December 2003. It starred the voice talents of Richard E. Grant as the official at the time of that recording, Ninth Doctor, Sophie Akonedo, I believe, I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, as Allison Chaney, and Sir Derek, and I'm going to say this wrong too, Jacobi, right?
I think he says Jacobi.
Jacobi,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, Derek Jacobi.
As the Master. And
yes.
Also an uncredited David Tennant as a caretaker. And last but not least, it is written by frequent Doctor Who novelist and comic book writer Paul Cornell. So some review. Clarence, I think I'll start with you. Some review. What say ye?
Man, very interesting story and very interesting circumstances here. I really enjoyed this. Funny enough, this might be one of the most scary endings that I can think of, or scary moments that I can think of in any Doctor Who. When we get, and we'll talk about it, but this end of the world moment, which I felt for some reason in this, it was realized more than anything I've seen in Who. And that very, very much was a surprise and welcomed. I enjoyed this interpretation of the Doctor. We'll get into all that, but overall, I really enjoyed it. I love the companions. I thought the story was top notch, and yeah, we'll get into it.
All right, Lee, what about you?
I put off watching this for years because I had seen some of the art and I just said, yeah. And so when I finally saw it, I was so pleasantly surprised and really I wish that the series had continued this way. Um, Still got major problems with the physical design of the Doctor as presented here, but I love Richard A. Grant's performance here, and of course we're talking about this now because at the place we are in the canon proper, I guess, he's now the face of the great intelligence.
Yeah.
Right? He's one of the ultimate evils in the universe. So he's back into Doctor Who. But there was a time, children, when he was the Doctor. And I just think it's a very entertaining romp, and it has a lot of the aspects of classic Who, while exploring some new ground as well. So I just love it. What about you?
So I wanted to love it. I really wanted
Uh-oh.
to love it. And I'm no, no,
Uh-oh.
no, no. I'm afraid what happened was I'm afraid I found maybe the wrong online Daily Motion or whatever site I was on trying to watch it. Maybe I found the wrong thing, whatever the wrong thing may be.
Oh.
And I kind of felt disjointed in some of the transitions from episode to episode, so much so that I was going back and looking and saying to myself, did I accidentally go to episode say 4 whenever I should have been on 3? And I don't know. It may have been the cuts that I was watching or whatever, but I felt disjointed overall. That said, I liked the companion. I liked aspects, Lee, I'll agree with you totally with the visual of the Doctor, but I did feel as I was listening and watching that the BBC proper was in this metamorphosis mode of classic, and this may be Who going forward, but how can we make it a little more up to date? And I felt like I was hearing this conversation in the background behind the scenes saying, how can we make this fresh? How can we make this different, but keep it true to Doctor Who?
Exactly.
So that was my feeling. I think the watching of what I chose was my problem because there are things in this that really were spot on. And, I give them much, much credit for that. So,
Yeah, but just real quick, I will admit, like some of the cuts were quick, and I think that may have just been because this was a web thing.
Hmm.
I don't think they did any lingering around to get to the next plot point. They they were just going from this to this. They were not wasting any time. And I agree there were some points where they were cutting to the next thing without letting it set. But a little disjointing, I agree, but it didn't bother me too much.
well, see, where my disjointing, though, came from, and I agree with you, and you're 1,000,000% right, that they did maximize the quote unquote screen time that they had. But mine more so was at the end versus the very beginning of the next one. I felt a little disconnect between I'm ending this episode, but I'm picking up, and maybe the scene has changed or something, and I'm like questioning, am I in the right place in the story?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Especially because they were deliberately imitating the style of classic Who, in which the serial episodes of a six-parter like this, every episode would begin with a recap with the last minute or two of the previous episode. And in this case, they chose not to do that. So if you're expecting to be reminded of where we were last time,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. And instead, we're in a different location doing something else. No, I agree with you. And I downloaded them from a source online, and I got them in the wrong order. So yeah, I had the same thing. I got, wait, what? Oh, this is episode 4. Okay, well, that doesn't belong after number 1, does it? Let's see if I can. All right, yeah.
So let's go to the very beginning and
Hmm.
this intro, the graphics, the music. Lee, what did you think? What were your thoughts about this intro?
Of the opening titles.
The opening titles, yes.
Yeah, it is the third Doctor. You're sort of expecting to see John Pertwee's face there, but we see something else, and his eyes glow. And by this time, we've already seen the 1996 movie, so we saw the glowing eyes before, but it was the Master doing that. So interesting, interesting. But we did continue this idea of having the Doctor's face appear in the titles. So a little bit of continuity from the classic series, and acknowledging the TV movie too. So, what are your thoughts about that?
All right. Clarence, what about you? What do you think?
On this intro, only thing I could think about is Podshock. Because I don't know if they use the same exact music for the background
I
track.
think so. Yeah.
With it's little upbeat drums sampling in
Hmm.
the Podshock version. But
Yeah.
every time I listen to this on every episode, I was like, oh, this just sounds like Podshock. And I'm sure that's just a classic music that they're just bringing forward. But that's pretty much all I could think of in that when it was playing. So
Well, I'll tell you, I picked up on something completely different, but even I didn't pick the Podshock thing up, and now I want to go back and listen to it. Lee, I did feel Third Doctorish, totally like you did. What I also, however, noticed was I picked up something that they use starting with series 5, which is the lightning that we saw from
Oh,
series 5 all the way up to series 7.
that
It,
is true. Yeah.
what and I was like, oh, where have I seen? Oh, series
Oh,
5.
yeah. Lightning in the vortex. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So I thought that was really, really, really cool. So, Clarence, I want to ask you about this version, this alternate Ninth Doctor. Thoughts about him as a character?
ironically, it reminds me a lot of the Ninth Doctor, Eccleston. It may be in the dialect or accent. I don't know if they're from the same part of the UK or not, but to me they sound very similar. I think that I like you guys. I didn't love the the way he was drawn. I think you said this a couple weeks ago. It looked more Dracula than anything. But I think it was due to the overall anime style or aesthetic that they were trying to apply to this. So I didn't really, it didn't really bother me too much. But yeah, I did very much like this Doctor. I wanted to see him in live action. I'm like, how
Hmm.
can we work this guy in somehow with, since we have infinite doctors now? Oh, spoilers. Cut that out, Cal. But somehow can we work this guy in because Richard Grant, because I actually love him as the Doctor. Uh, Again, just very much reminds me of the Ninth. He kind of it. I love the way he went in to investigate. We get to see him by himself at the very beginning, so I love the way he just kind of barged into town and investigates things and makes friends in maybe the most awkward way possible. But yeah, I thought he was excellent, and the pairing we got with the other person in the TARDIS, I thought made it even more interesting.
Mm. Lee, what about you?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't like the way the character is drawn, but I love the way he's scripted, and I love Richard E. Grant's vocal performance of it. Um, I would disagree about the accent, though. I think that Eccleston's Doctor was part of the fun of him is that he's got kind of a working class accent. Rose calls him out about it.
Yeah.
If you're from an ancient race and you're a Time Lord, why do you sound like you're from a North? And he says,
Everybody's got a noise.
yeah, lots of planets have a North. Yeah, but Grant sounds posh, and in fact, a lot of
Hmm.
his references are sort of. Yeah, I think he sounds very central London. Very. He's been to
Yeah.
good schools, kind of
I wonder what it
Um,
is then.
yeah, well, it's that kind of in your faceness though that I think he shares that with Eggleston. That sort of well, I'm here. Yeah, you're scared, but
Yeah.
not as scared as they are. Okay, what's going on? You know. So whatever the accent, it's still that manner that um, yeah, everybody pay attention to me. And complaining about something like there's no Paco Bell on this jukebox, which is ridiculous. There's uh, maybe yeah, maybe Cassandra's jukebox has Paco Bell on it, but not anyway. Um, yeah, so I don't know. It's things like that. I think he's very interesting. I love the fact that he seems to want to reference a lot of things about Earth history. That's kind of a third Doctor joke that he spent a lot of time on Earth, and so he knows everybody from our history. He
Yep.
mentions very casually at one point that Andy Warhol wanted to paint all 9 of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was great.
Does that mean that Warhol has brought this up to each iteration of the Doctor as they come through, or or that we'll never know? But things like that. But it's also very interesting that Paul Cornell's idea here is that a lot of time has passed since we saw him last, and some important things have happened that are outside of our story. He's traveling alone because of something that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not told what it was. And not to jump too far ahead in the story, but he's traveling with, apparently, the Master, who is a prisoner in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And then we find out that's not the Master at all.
So
Or
good.
is
Is
it?
it?
Oh, see, I didn't even consider.
Mm.
Mm.
So let me.
So yeah.
So
there's
can
all
I
that.
can I
And
add to the tapestry there, Lee?
yeah, there's definitely more.
All right.
Yeah.
No, about the master. May I add?
Okay. Yes. Right.
So I read up on this, and apparently there were some of the novelizations with the Eighth Doctor that at some point, spoilers, and well, I guess it's not a spoiler because the Eighth Doctor happened in the past and future,
Right.
and et cetera and so forth. So, spoilers, but the Master had become a disembodied intelligence, no pun intended, and had been trapped inside the TARDIS, which kind of makes sense considering what happened in the 96 movie.
Right.
I could see that. So it would make second sense, maybe, if somehow the consciousness got downloaded into a master robot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Possibly.
and even considering what happens to him during the Tenant years, the body is gone again, right? If I'm remembering
Right.
correctly.
That's
So,
right. Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Or maybe in some type of wibbly wobbliness, the consciousness gets downloaded into a new form that's a little baby, but is using that same voice that then grows up to be a professor of some type. Professor
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yana. Who
What a
knows?
great Easter egg.
Well,
Yes.
that's it. It's like like the lightning bolts in the opening titles. You wonder how much of an impact on the new series Scream of the Shalka has had. That I think of it as being sort of a footnote in Doctor Who canon, but I think folks at the BBC have taken it a lot more seriously. That they keep reaching back to it. That this idea of Derek Jacobi being the Master was irresistible. Let's do it again. And even things like the lightning bolts, and there are other things that'll come up here, but here's the big thing: is that one of the first things that this Doctor says when he steps out of the TARDIS is, "I don't want to be here."
Right.
Well, who's in charge? And as the episode goes along, as the serial goes along, he keeps saying, "That's why I've been sent here, and I won't do their work for them anymore." And that sounds like the Fourth Doctor talking again.
Yeah.
We thought we got away from this thing of the Time Lords sending him on missions, but something's happened. He's at their mercy again.
Yeah, that definitely confused me because that was referenced several times. I was like, what?
Hmm.
What's going? Hmm,
Yeah.
very interesting.
So a lot has happened between We Guess, the TV movie, and
Yeah.
now. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned how this kind of is referred to in some sense in later, series. It kind of reminds me of if you think of Star Wars, like the Legends, like
Hmm.
Disney said, the Legend stuff doesn't count anymore. It's there. You can check it out, but it doesn't count. But they reference it all the time going forward. So yeah, that kind of reminds me. This kind of reminds me of that.
Uh-huh.
I have often referred to the 12th Doctor as being, at least in the first times we see the 12th Doctor, not as his character progressed, but initial 8th series 12th Doctor, as being a combo of 3 and 6. But after seeing this one is a lot more 3 and 6 to me than the 12th Doctor, because some of the things that he did, some of the coldness that he had was
Right.
right up Six's alley.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, one of the most amazing moments of this story is when he tells Major Kenneth that he can't be bothered with all this stuff, and that he's going back to the TARDIS, and he's through with it, and he is pompous and arrogant, and it's just awful. He sounds like a snide coward, and Kenneth completely puts him in his place. And he says, "We'll be out there doing the work while you get to be superior and eccentric."
Yes, I remember that one.
It's a great moment, and you think, this is sort of hero fiction here. Our heroes don't say, "I'm going to run away and let you people do all the work because I can't, I'm too good for this." But he does. And then our human character, Major Kenneth, brings him right back, well, literally right back down to earth. And the Doctor's back on board again after that. He has to get scolded by one of the other characters in the story. It's really remarkable.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah, it's kind of amazing because as much as I like him in this story, it accentuates what a contradiction of some of the, and he even mentions it directly.
Yes, you
Um,
you get to be
like,
two things at once. Yeah.
yeah, which, uh,
You, you know what I find interesting from what you guys just said, and specifically the point that you just made? It seems like when the Doctor is put in their place, him or herself's
Yeah.
place, those are the moments that tend to be remembered and stand out
Yeah.
and are monumental. And I'll reference another one that had a big impact for you, Clarence, was one of the moments that kind of jailed Sarah Jane for you was that the way she would just kind of call out the Doctor, the fourth Doctor, when we were doing Pyramids of Mars,
yeah,
of their interaction of her just calling him out.
yeah, and funny enough, what the way this doctor may be so far in that arena or have that attitude so at the top of the way he's acting in this series might be due to the fact that he doesn't have a companion with him. Well, he has a
Mhm.
companion, but
Not
not the
Well,
yet, not
companion.
no,
officially.
at the beginning of the story, yeah, he has apparently been traveling alone for some time.
Well, I was counting the master, but
Yeah, no, I think canonically, yeah, and then later on in the series, it will be reinforced. He ought not to do that.
So
So
what
yeah, if his only companion is an android version of the master, yeah, he's off. He's off. He's running off the rails, man. He needs. To...
so what did you guys think of this alt version? And let me say this real quick. Stephen Moffat obviously really was a fan of this because of the elements that we see peppered along Stephen Moffat's tenure, from the
Mhm.
lightning, if he had anything to do with that,
Yeah.
to I know he didn't have anything to do with Professor Yana, but and there's another element in here. But what did you guys think of this master pairing with this version of the Doctor? Did it work? Did it not work? Did you like it? Thoughts?
Oh, I think the tension of having a version of the Master inside the TARDIS is one of the reasons I wanted this series to continue. It's like, what an audacious idea. That's incredibly dangerous. Oh my God, that's so.
Yeah.
This is Russian roulette. You don't let the Master into your TARDIS. And yet, the Master is clearly a prisoner. He's really got him under control, I guess. That would have been fascinating to see how that.
Yeah. Clarence, what about you? What do you think?
Well, the thing for me is that I'm never really sure if the master is clearly under his control, but I'm not sure if he's going to stab him in the back. Of course, we have restrictions. He can't leave the TARDIS, but there's a couple of times he even states that he's, buying his time. Actually.
Right. Yeah, which is exactly what you would expect him to do.
Yes, yes. So that dynamic is so great, and I just find it fascinating too that he's this android, and we get that jaw-dropping moment, at least for me, when his face like flies off. I'm like,
Love
whoa,
it. Love it. Yeah.
I just like this concept of perhaps the Doctor was trying in some way to rehabilitate the Master.
Yep, maybe.
Yep.
I mean,
and we've seen that before, and we'll see it again later.
Yeah, I would love to see a storyline where the Doctor takes the Master and attempts to find the good in him.
That'll never happen.
Never. I think that would be awesome. I mean, regardless of what you can say about the Master is a lot of things, but I always, when thinking of the Master, have to do one thing, and it's my birthday, and that is thinking about the Master, have to be positive. I have to say something nice.
Something nice.
Yes.
Well, to support your view that Moffat is strongly influenced by Scream of the Shalka, I'm sure you caught that Matilda's cat was Oswald.
Interesting. I did not, but cool.
Yeah. I mean, the cat could have been named anything, but that was interesting. I love that this ninth Doctor says, hey, he's apparently used up his 9 lives. Rather like me in that regard.
And in a certain episode in Series 8, Clara is a little catty, so there you go. Cha-ching.
Cha-ching. Yeah.
So what did you guys think? Let's switch gears for a moment. Allison Chaney. Thoughts about her real quick.
I love Allison Chaney. I just love her so much. And how cool is it that actress will come back to be Liz 10 in the awesome. Below. But and since we've seen her face, we know that they have very carefully modeled this this drawing of her. That's her.
Looks just like her.
And one of the first things that happens when we meet her, and we're still getting to know her, is we see that everybody is cowering in the presence of the Shalka to the point where they're trying to be quiet so they don't disturb the Shalka. And she leaves the bar to go out and face the Shalka and say, you can knock it off. Everybody's behaving themselves. And, she's got companion written all over her, doesn't she?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're wondering, because she's tending bar, maybe she's not very well educated, maybe she's not, and then she lets slip to the Doctor that he says, I've forgotten what triggers this, but she says something about the Catalan modernist architect, Antoni Gaudi. And he gives her a look, She gave up studies in history to move in with Joe.
Yep.
So it's another one of those things where he's stunned by how courageous she is. Then he gets stunned by how wide her view of the world is, and how loyal she is. And, you're just thinking, companion. Yeah. It's just fantastic.
All
So,
right.
what did y'all think about her?
Lee?
Yeah,
I mean, Clarence?
yeah, prime companion material. He's
Mm-hmm.
so great in this. Everything Lee said, I agree with 100%. In addition to, I wasn't sure about her relationship with Joe. You know, I think they even mentioned that they weren't that solid at some point, but I do love that kind of, just inkling, just a little smidget of dynamic we get with them. I found that very interesting, but she actually goes through a lot in this series.
Yeah.
Very quickly, she goes through some major things. She gets captured, almost dies, gets something implanted into her, and is ultimately the
Yeah.
key to getting everything resolved. And I just like how um she was put right in the center, and not only that, but she was able to overcome what probably would have drove many of us crazy. She was able to keep her composure and show that she's worthy to be a companion, and that she's getting through all this, and winds up again being instrumental in the resolution of this entire story. So I loved Liz Tan in this.
Yeah, me too. I thought she
Yeah.
was awesome, and I love the tie-in that you picked up on, which is she has the boyfriend that really isn't the boyfriend, that she leaves the boyfriend to go with the doctor. Yeah, I just thought that was cool because that's right up series one, episode one, Rose, and
Yep.
leaving
Yep.
Mickey behind. I mean, very, very, parallel to that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you guys said was 100% true. She was the typical, and I don't mean typical in a bad way, but she was the cookie cutter companion that is the perfect fit to balance out the doctor. And I think she was written well. And I'll go so far as to say she may have been written a little better than this version of the doctor was.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say that, but she is certainly, the script certainly treats her with the respect that the character deserves.
Well, let me say it this way. Let
Yeah.
me let me reframe what I said. I enjoyed this version of the Doctor as I was not looking at the screen but listening to him. I that
Mm.
visual vampire doctor kind
Mm.
of broke it for me. Broke it made me remember and sort of discount or made me disillusioned with the story because I knew this isn't really the doctor,
Yeah.
and oh, this is so different
Mm.
when I
Yeah.
saw how different he looked.
Well, and I think it didn't bother me as much because that was kind of the aesthetic of everything. It was kind of that
Yeah.
look and feel. So I
Yeah.
eventually
I
got
always
into
call
them.
him I always call him the Aeon Flux Doctor because that was about the same time, and yeah, he does. He looks like one
Yeah,
of the characters from Aeon Flux. So
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Mm.
man.
Yeah, it was a fashion.
But
Well,
but
go ahead.
I
No, go
did
ahead.
just to pivot a little bit. The look of the interior of his TARDIS seemed like a mix between the movie TARDIS,
Hmm.
and we had this weird looking wraparound stairwell, which I thought was pretty interesting. That I'd like to see that come back. That was pretty cool. I
Yeah.
do say will say that I really miss in this version. I really miss the elevated console because to me in like New Who, that's kind of one of the things that makes it look really cool and interesting. Is like when we get the elevated console. So it was kind of bland, but still interesting at the same time with the stairwells.
Oh, I just realized that spiral staircase in this TARDIS, that's the one that they extend. Apparently, you can just sort of lower it down through the floor of the TARDIS. That's the one that he lets down in The Snowmen.
Ah, good one.
Yeah,
Good
it's
one.
just there, ready
Repurposing.
for him to crank it down. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
I
know,
love that.
he keeps it in the swimming pool when they're not
Right.
using it.
Yeah.
Wait, no, he has a hanger. Didn't he say the hanger in this
Yeah.
episode?
It's the Zeppelin hanger, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Journey to the center of the TARDIS. You'll never know what you might find.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the ones that we have not heard from yet,
Mm.
which are the Shalka and their scream.
Ooh, we've heard from them.
Yes, indeed. So screaming Shalka. Clarence, go first. Screaming Shalka, what did you
Well,
think?
let me start with a question back to you guys. Are they new to this story or have they been used before?
I'm not aware of them ever being mentioned before.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that, I really like these enemies and hope they bring them back. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I was just there was something about the way they chose to expand upon what the scream means that really was interesting to me. Is and they even say it explicitly about this Sonic internet or Sonic service provider. If this is a way
Hmm.
they transfer information, and initially we think it's just to, annoy the hell out of people and make them
Yeah,
want to come in.
which it
But
does.
but it does. But it's also used as a way to control people, which I thought was very very interesting. And you take that and you even expand upon it on they're using it as a means to break down the ozone layer to terraform Earth to their liking. I thought all of that was pretty interesting for this, 6-part animated show. I thought
Yeah.
that good stuff, good stuff. But overall, I thought they were very interesting enemy. I want to see them come back. They sort of quasi had an idea of a queen, I guess, which I thought was interesting as well. And also, in this warp gate, which I'm just going to call a Stargate because Stargate was on around the time this came out, was very interesting as well. So everything about them I thought was cool. Let's bring them back, please.
All right. What did you think, Lee?
um, Clarence speaks for me. All of those things, and it is fun. Great actress Diana Quick is the prime, so she gets to be the voice, the sort of linguistic voice of the Shalka. I am prime, she says. And yeah, isn't that interesting that it's not just a noise to shake things up, but it is their not only their language but their technology,
Yeah.
that sound, so they can use it to what we find to manipulate space time. They can create wormholes and black holes with the scream, and that's just kind of amazing. And I love this line. Once we've seen them, and we've seen that the sort of, well, he calls it a scab, this skin that they've created to cover their interior, which is just lava, we guess. Um, they look like worms, or 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 maggots or something. But then they open this hole in space, and he says, "Ah, I like your wormhole." And that hangs there for a second. And he says, "Oh dear, do you call it that?" It's an almost naughty line, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh boy.
It's one of those you have to, oh,
Oh yeah, I like your wormhole. Oh, I'm sorry,
no.
maybe that's not what you. Oh, but they're fascinating, and yeah, and by the time they're implanting a tiny Shalka in people's heads, um, yeah, it just feels like there's so much to learn about them that you just you just want to know more, but you also want them to go away and stop putting things in people's heads. So yeah, very interesting. That noise is it's a mechanical noise, we know, isn't it? It's some kind of a belt dragging against something. Is it's
Mm.
it seems to me like I had a car that used to make that noise. It's something about belts anyway. I want to find out how they made that noise. But my golly, if it's supposed to aggravate you, it does. That is the scream. The actual scream of the Shalka is a infuriating noise.
I was going
Well,
to ask, was Wilhelm used in the making of this production?
Yes. Endless Wilhelm.
well, I will go another route.
Mm,
I really, really like the visual. And, I'm talking about
yes.
how, you know, odd the visuals are to some degree. I thought the visual of them just worked for the production value, not, and maybe not the production style, not value, production style that they were using. But I would love to see what computer generated animation would look if these were brought back in a future series. I think it would be interesting to see a CGI, excuse me, of what these would look like. So I really, more than anything, liked how they looked.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that that was part of the power of what they were doing here, is that if you're going to do a series that's animated, then that opens Doctor Who up to visually represent things that we've never been able to do before.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, imagine in the fourth or fifth Doctor's time, if we had written a scene where he is falling through a limitless hole in space and trying to make a phone call while he's doing it. You know, and I completely bought the way that's done in this sort of anime style, but I just sort of see that on a BBC soundstage on a blue screen, you know, where he's got a hard blue line around him and he's doing this. I just think, yeah, I don't buy this at all. It just looks dumb, but yeah, but now we can do it. And so, yeah, then they have the opportunity of deciding what do the Shalka actually look like? And the answer is they look like a whole bunch of different things. The Queen looks like this, and then there's sort of these, and they've got hands, and the other ones don't, and they're just like snakes. And then these look like dragons, and sometimes they become corporate beings. They'll all meld together, and they'll turn into this thing with tentacles.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Big transport thing. That thing was huge.
Yeah.
That swallows up the Doctor like a whale, like Jonah. So
exactly.
Oh man, they don't hold back at all.
No,
which is great.
They just go nuts with it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, so as far as visually and what they're able to do, I mentioned this up top, but the end of the world sequence,
yeah,
for some reason that just resonated with me so well. It felt better. Maybe better is not the word, but it felt more real than anything I've seen in the live action versions for some reason. And we've definitely had our end of the world sequences in some of the live action episodes, but for some reason the way it was realized in this just was like, wow, things are really bad. So,
and that actually led to one of the few things about this script that really bugged me, and that is that as the Shalka are coming very close to annihilating the human race, they mentioned that the ozone layer has been stripped away.
Yeah.
And about this time was when we were really starting to acknowledge the damage we'd done to the ozone layer, which a lot of which has been healed since then.
Yeah.
It's like one of the few things that we've done environmentally for this planet that has actually had some positive result. But they said it's gone. Well, if it's gone, we're dead.
Yeah.
And there's no explanation in this story about how they got it back. You don't just grow a new one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at the end, Major Kenneth is like, well, we came very close, It's a greener, fresher England that we look out upon or whatever. I'm thinking, no, you don't have an ozone layer.
Yeah.
It said so in the script. I want to. So I wish that there had been at least a line of dialogue explaining that. But anyway,
the Doctor's just like, I believe in humans. They can fix it. I'm like, oh,
yes,
well,
that's right. Yeah. Oh, really? We can make an ozone layer? Okay.
It's kind of dire. Okay.
So let me ask you guys this question. I am at the end of my notes. So my question is, do you guys have any other items that you wanted to bring up about this that you haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, I have a few. I thought it was very interesting, and I was surprised. And we keep talking about conflicting or contradicting Doctor or whatever, but he actually transports the soldiers in the TARDIS. I'm like, what? They're barely out of there with guns and just start, shooting and trying to corral the crowd. I'm like, what?
He's never done that before.
Like, wow, that really surprised me. And also, I loved how we're brainwashing the humans. I thought it was interesting that even though I'm sure our vocal cords cannot reach the heights of the chakra, but they employed humans as part of their transmitting of the data or in order to kill the ozone layer. So it was interesting that they used the humans to scream as well. And I guess we do have to talk about the doctor and his swallowing the mini chakra worm and his singing performance to where he goes all Anakin Skywalker and just like kills them all.
That's right.
Like what?
And as a musical theater fan, I love the fact that he starts this all out by singing part of Cabaret. What good is sitting alone in your room? He swallows the Shalka, and then after everything happens, then he says, "Come to the cabaret."
Yeah, vaporize all of them, including the little ones. And
Whoosh.
Like I said, this doctor don't play.
He does not play. He is not kidding around.
Doctor don't play.
And this seems like kind of. I thought this is sort of strangely intimate if you think about it. That we're still in this area where we don't kiss our companions. Yeah. And of course those days are gone. But but a lot of people in the TV movie, when the doctor kissed Amazing Grace, a lot of people said, "Oh, it's not Doctor Who. He doesn't kiss his companions. That's wrong." But he did. The second Doctor would kiss Vicky on the forehead, at least once I can think of it. And that's sort of fatherly. That's paternal. I like that. And so this doctor kisses Allison on the forehead in the same way. And I thought that was nice. Also, since that's where she had a baby Shalka. Sort of like mommy will kiss it and make it better. But at the same time, she's had this thing growing inside her head, and then he swallows it. That's pretty. Yeah, this seems pretty intimate somehow. They're connected now. I don't know.
But not only that, she swallows it back.
That's right. And after he's been swallowed by the Shalka, yeah, you could not do this as a live action show on camera at this time. It just. But I love
can we talk about you mentioned it before, Lee, but the doctor's cell phone, maybe the first time the doctor has a cell phone, but he summons the TARDIS.
Yes,
Doesn't that like break everything going forward if he can do that?
And if I hope you notice the close up of it, that his little phone looks like the TARDIS.
Yes.
It's very cute.
Yeah, because I remember I had a cover for my phone that looked like similar to that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool.
He's got one too.
He's got one too.
Yeah. Well, he forgot about it. He's in this moment before he dies when he realizes that the phone, whose batteries have just run down, he's, wait, you're part of the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Wow, is it? Yeah. What became of that?
I know what became of it. He lost it somewhere. The TARDIS got mad, and that's why he has a phone that's an old school phone that he doesn't think works anymore, and it has this humongous cord on it.
Right.
That was punishment for losing his mobile TARDIS phone.
But also, like, by extension, I was just, relating it to, when he taps into Rose's phone or any other companions. Doesn't their phones become part of the TARDIS when he does that? I don't know. I would think.
Well, according to, and I'm thinking in something the 13th Doctor does, is she says the doctor says that they reprogram the phone.
Yeah, we remembered the Ninth Doctor having to sort of jazz up Rose's phone with the screwdriver so that it will be so that she can call her mother. Mm-hmm. Remember? Yeah. Even though her mother's in a different time and place.
Gives new meaning to the reach out and touch someone.
Sing it, Kyle. You're getting in the mood.
Yeah. I'll tell you the thing that I wanted to bring up about this, and if it's lengthy, I hope you'll just cut it out. But it's
go for it.
I had just discovered this, and I just think it is the most interesting thing. They're in Lancashire, and there are holes in the ground. It's a pivotal part of the story that there's these things all underground and that there are all these places where you can go down and be with the Shalka and the Shalka come back up again. So there may be, I don't know, 4,000 holes in Lancashire. Is that a reference to the Beatles song A Day in the Life, in which it is mentioned that there are 4,000 holes in Blackburn, Lancashire? The Beatles being who they are, in terms of popular culture, I got to go with yes. That this is Paul Cornell having some fun with us. That this is a story in which we find out why there are 4,000 holes in Lancashire. But I got curious about that, and so I got on the web to confirm the story. And as far as anybody knows, this is true, that Paul McCartney and John Lennon sort of set each other the challenge of trying to write a song that was just based on things they read in the newspaper. And the song is, A Day in the Life. I read the news today. Oh boy. And one of the things that John had read about was that there are all this plague of potholes in the town of Blackburn in Lancashire. And that a city council had gone out and counted them. Didn't say they were going to do anything about them, but they counted them. And they had reported that there were indeed 4,000 holes in Blackburn, Lancashire. Which is a lot. And at the time, and I know this just from the pop culture, and I think everybody in Britain knew this at the time, that the Royal Albert Hall was something that everybody knew. And they had known since the days of Victoria, of course, since the hall was built. Anybody who had been in there, and almost everybody in London had been in there at one time or another, if you wanted to try to express an amount of volume or something, if you wanted to say, and these young people have collected enough pennies to fill the Albert Hall, it was a figure of speech. And everybody knew that. And the next line of the song is, now we know how many holes it takes to fill the Albert Hall, which is a funny bit of sort of Lewis Carroll logic. Holes won't fill the anyway. But that was John Lennon's sense of humor, so it all makes sense, since I got interested in this and wanted to research it, I found that in some renovations that they were doing to the Royal Albert Hall, they found this whole room full of filing cabinets that nobody had opened for years. And it was full of correspondence, letters that had come and gone from the official staff of the Royal Albert Hall. And somebody found a letter written, it is dated May 29th, 1967, and it was written to the producer of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And I will read you the letter because I just think it's so fantastic. To Brian Epstein, Apple Corporation, number 3 Savile Row, London, W1. Dear Mr. Epstein, thank you for sending us a copy of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. You are indeed correct that one line in particular, toward the end of side B, would indeed pique our interest, however, not for the reasons you may have initially assumed. In the lyric, which mentions the Albert Hall, the singer, we believe to be John Lennon, heavily implies several gross inaccuracies, which we consider to be misleading to the general public who may hear this song and potentially catastrophic to our reputation, one which has taken almost a century to achieve. We have listed the inaccuracies and the contentious matters below for reference. 1, that there are 4,000 holes in the Royal Albert Hall of Arts and Sciences. 2, that the Royal Albert Hall of Arts and Sciences is in Blackburn, Lancashire. And 3, that the singer would love to turn on the Royal Albert Hall of Arts and Sciences. Now, at this point, I don't know if they're kidding or not, but I think they're not. I think they were serious about this. This wrong-headed assumption that there are 4,000 holes in our auditorium is particularly damaging, as it is likely to deter concert-goers who do not wish to fall into a hole. I'm also baffled as to where this figure has come from, even if you count doorways in the Royal Albert Hall of Arts and Sciences as holes that would still make only 32. He goes on to suggest alternate lyrics to the song. He wants them to re-record the song.
Wow.
Anyway, we trust that these proposed changes will meet with your approval and look forward to your assurance in this matter. A sincere apology would also not go amiss. Yours
Wow.
sincerely, Ernest O'Follinger, Chief Executive, Royal Albert Hall of Arts and Sciences. Yes. Wow. Isn't that, yeah, all you can say is wow.
Well, this brings up a question for you guys. Like, did they? Well, I don't know if maybe we might have to research this, but were lyrics ever actually changed because people complained
Ooh, that
back in
is a
the
good
day?
question. That is a good question.
Because now it just sounds outlandish. I mean, there's this thing called the internet where people complain
Yeah.
all the
You go, no, we'll get the original version of this song. Yeah.
time. Mm.
No, but to me, if this is serious, and it really feels like it is,
Yeah, it
I
sounds
mean, this sounds
serious.
like somebody who has half listened to the lyric. I mean, the lyric doesn't say that the Albert Hall is in Lancashire, and it doesn't say that the holes are anyway. Yeah, yeah. So I just think a hole when I read this letter, and I think, wow, now we know how many holes are in the Albert Hall. At least one.
4001.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you
And
and
here's
it makes me
4,001.
wonder why people like the Beatles came along and revolutionized music, because it sounds like people were so uptight.
Yeah.
Well, yep.
I
Yep.
mean, I'm
This is
sorry, I'm
no.
not.
This is exactly the kind of thing they were rebelling against. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, if you, I can't wrap my head around how you can take the lyric that we've been talking about and make it literal that somebody thinks that there's 4,000 holes in.
In the Albert Hall.
Yes, I mean, if the lyric was, it's moldy and musty or something like that,
Yeah, that's right. That
and
would
then
have
they
been that
take
would have been
offense to
legitimate.
that. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
the Albert Hall in any way for anyone listening to us in
You'll be
England
getting a
is
letter,
that.
Kyle.
No, right.
That is not what I'm meaning. But I'm saying if you want to take something that would be derogatory to something that people are proud of, as they
Yes.
rightfully should be, I just can't. 4,000. Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's incredible, and it makes me think of the moment in A Hard Day's Night where the Beatles are in a railroad compartment with this kind of stuffy conservative guy who says, I take this train twice a week, so I suppose I have some rights to, whether we have the window open or closed. And he says at one point to John, he says, I fought the war for your kind. And John says, I bet you're sorry you won.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, they knew there are people in the world who are going to be like this. Anyway, change of subject. So is Allison Cheney our official first non-white companion?
Mm.
Or does Chang Lee count even though he didn't really go far?
He would be the master's first companion, period.
Well, that's true. Yeah, he wasn't yeah, he had made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
So even though we're not privy to the Doctor's adventures with Allison Cheney, and I hope there were many, I think she's still our first non-white companion.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that.
Yep, I agree too. And, I just think that is interesting, because this has given me a much better appreciation, because I will tell you, I'll be honest with you, I watched 4 out of the 6 episodes because, like I said, the cutting I just didn't get. I watched first, second, third, and sixth. So you guys have given me a much better appreciation for the story than what I had going in, and I love, 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 love the tapestry. And I'm now, because someone has given me a supercut, going to go back and watch the whole
Yeah.
kit and caboodle
It
again.
makes a lot more sense as
Yes.
as a movie. Yeah.
So, gentlemen, I personally don't have any favorite scene, favorite quote, but I'm curious if the two of you do. And Clarence, I'll start with you. Favorite scene and favorite quote, if you have them.
Yeah, my favorite moment is the revelation that the master was an android, or is that I thought that was just killer and left my jaw on the freaking floor. What? So that was great, and also a quote from Major Kenneth I hate to say it, Doctor, but we have to bomb these people, or or at least the ones with a shocker in their heads. What?
Yes.
Did he just say that?
That's what he said. So just
Oh,
bomb everybody is what you're saying.
wow.
Yeah, he's not Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, but he's mighty close.
Oh,
So,
and I did like
uh,
when they show one of the first times that they show the military guy that I think this guy you guys are talking about,
yeah.
and they shut this file and it has unit logo on it.
Yes.
That was cool.
And it's a big dog-eared file with pages sticking halfway out of it. He says, "Yeah, I read your file. Very interesting." Something of an understatement. Well, I love that scene too. Just that instant of seeing that the master is an android. It's just it is a jaw-dropping moment. It's just a wonderful idea. But as a scene, I love the whole business of the doctor. He is certain his death, but
Yep.
trying to leave a message on Major Kenneth's phone all the way down, and then remembering that his mobile phone is actually part of the TARDIS, and that's
Yeah.
that's what saves him.
So cool.
It's such a fun thing. So, favorite quote for me is, "I'm just popping out to do something eccentric." I think I'm going to start saying that.
Oh man.
You know, I'm going to go back on what I said and say that
Mm.
I actually liked the scene where the doctor walked in. It's just in the first episode where the doctor walks into the bar for the first time. I know that sounds like a
Oh.
joke. The doctor walks into a
It's
bar,
into a bar.
but I just liked the mood that it set. You know, it was very dark, very moody,
Mhm.
and I thought that that was a departure going, if we were looking at it going even from the 96 movie. I liked the moodiness of it because that's not something we had seen in Doctor Who yet. So I actually have that as one of my
Mm.
notes, was the moodiness of episode 1. So I'll take that as my favorite scene. So there you go. So
Let,
final
let, let,
rating. Oh yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
let me get just one more quote real quick, and this is on the
Mhm.
contradiction part of the doctor. When Allison tells him, I can't understand, I can't figure you out, and he's like, I feel the same way. I don't like the military, but I have so many friends in it. I say I do not kill, but then I exterminate thousands.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. That's
Mm,
that's that's one of the most insightful remarks about the Doctor that we've had since 1963.
mm.
It's just fantastic. So
Absolutely.
earlier conversation where somebody asks him, "What are you?" and he says, "Mildly annoyed." That's another goodie.
I want Richard E. Grant Doctor.
Yes.
I want it.
All right. So, gentlemen, final rating. And Clarence, I think I'll still start with you. Clarence, final rating. What say you?
And I'm gonna give it a 4.9.
Ooh.
And my reasoning being is that I've seen a bunch of the animated episodes that were either lost, so we have part of them, and for me those never, and I mentioned this before, those never really work for me because it it would work as a live action episode, but when it's animated to try to match the beats don't actually feel as natural if it's like done as a voice performance for animation. And that's kind of, I think, maybe why I love this one so much, in addition to being a great story. But I felt like when it was intentionally done as an animation, it just felt like it all flowed better for me. And it's probably one of my favorite animated Doctor Who things I've seen. So for that reason, I got to give it a 4.9.
Yeah, we had talked about that kind of off mic last week, and I think that's a great point that this demonstrates the difference between something that is deliberately made as an animated film and the retrofitted animated films that's trying to make up for the episodes that are lost, that they weren't intended to be animated films. They're not performed that way. But these are really thoughtful before the mic voice acting performances, and then they're realized as an animation. And yeah, what a difference it makes. It's just terrific.
So I'm trying to sit here and be clever and come up with a good rating. I,
Hmm.
I'm going to give it.
Don't forget mine because I've got one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go for it then.
Oh, well, mine is, of course, out of five, 4,000 holes in Blackburn Rouge.
You couldn't resist.
No.
You couldn't resist. Oh boy. I don't even want to say mine now. I missed it, but I don't want to go back. We're just gonna go with
No, no, I want
worms.
to know because now I'm curious, and I'm not going to leave this in some type of wibbly wobbly dark corner of the universe that we never hear from. So, what was your item?
I was gonna say worms, but you know the
Yeah.
holes. I can't. You got to stick with the holes, man. You can't. You can't fight that. That's just
Not
match made in heaven.
not going to say anything. Not going to say anything. Absolutely not. So cool.
No, nobody's got wants to use a TARDIS-shaped telephones. Or,
Mm.
yeah.
So I'm going to give this 4.09 because if I
Mhm.
gave it a 4.9, it would be Christopher Eccleston. So I'm going to give it a 4.09 of Robot Masters saying something nice out of
Yeah.
5.
Ooh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
gentlemen, this was fun. This was interesting. I honestly thought that we would be out in 45 minutes, but we are actually surpassing, before edits, we are surpassing our time for The Angels Take Manhattan, believe it or not.
Wow.
So that said, where else, gentlemen, might you be found on the internet, or what are you watching or reading? Lee Shackelford, I'll start with you.
I am going to go back to the old habit of encouraging people to check out relativitypodcast.com. I just sort of looked at our download numbers recently and discovered that people seem to be discovering this old audio drama of ours. I call it old now since we wrapped it up last year. Um, and yeah, people are kind of flocking there to get the saga starring
Oh, it's a
Clarence Brown.
saga now.
It's a
Wow.
saga, yes.
Wow. Feels so
But
majestic.
it is. I love saying that. But yeah, and I think it is because the word is getting out that it's concluded. And so if you want to binge a story from the beginning to the end, then this is one of the things to do is Relativity, where you can find on relativitypodcast.com. And I'll tell you that if you want to get that for free, then you can go do that. You can also pay for it. And let me explain that.
No?
There's a service called Dramify. And I know the people who have put this together, and I really admire what they're doing here. They want to create a subscription service that is just for quality audio fiction. And bless them, they have invited us, Relativity, to be a part of their catalog. So check them out at dramafy.com. That is drama, DRAMAFY.com, and see what they're offering. Their motto is battle the boring.
Oh.
Also, reignite your imagination. They've got a lot of slogans, actually. But yeah, it is your one-stop shop specifically for audio drama. And I think that's a very interesting idea. We'll see if it works.
Yeah, I said go to the page. The first podcast on the original audio dramas is Relativity Podcast.
Relativity?
Relativity? Yeah, you have to say it like Einstein, yeah.
Awesome
Relativity.
sauce.
All right, Clarence Brown, what say ye?
Yeah, so if you love hearing Kyle and myself and the merry cast of others talk, you should definitely check out the Discussing Trek podcast, where we talk about Star Trek and, other related sci-fi sometimes, but mostly Star Trek. You can check that out by going to discussingtrek.com. And if you want to subscribe, just discussingtrek.com/subscribe, and you can pick an outlet. Yeah.
Awesome. So I will leave everyone, especially since I got a great shout out on Facebook from my two favorite assassins and since they are off assassinating people, I will say if you like assassins and you like assassinating people, which we know everybody does.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, assassins. And if you are a member of the League of Assassins and know the handshake and all that good stuff, I would suggest that you go and check out, because probably by this time this episode goes out, the finale for series 3 of Oz 9 will be out, starring, of course, as Pluto, Lee Shackelford, and our friend Shannon
Yes.
Perry, and a host and myriad of other people and great voice actors and great actors all. So Oz 9 podcast, look it up, tell them discussing who sent you, otherwise you shall be assassinated.
Oh
There you go.
goodness.
So, guys, this was so much fun. Loved spending my birthday hours as my birthday begins to come to a close. Loved, as always, spending time with the two of you, and for everyone listening, spending part of my birthday talking to you guys. So, thank you for being here. For you two guys, for everyone listening, you are appreciated. And as always, we will be back next time.